Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to the live reading on the Krishna book. Hope you all had a nice weekend. We are on chapter 19 now. We were discussing how Pralambasur demon was killed by Lord Balram when he tried to kidnap Lord Krishna and Lord Balram while they were herding the cows and calves with the Gopas in the Bandiravan forest. Chapter 19 is titled Devouring the Forest Fire. While Krishna and Balram and their friends were engaged in the pastimes described above, the cows, being unobserved, began to wander off on their own, entering farther and farther into the deepest part of the forest. Allured by fresh grasses, the goats, cows, and buffalo traveled from one forest to another and entered the forest known as Ishikatavi. This forest was full of green grass and therefore they were allured. But when they entered, they saw that there was a forest fire and they began to cry. On the other side, Balaram and Krishna, along with their friends, could not find their animals and they became very aggrieved. They began to trace the cows by following their footprints, as well as the path of eaten grass. All of the boys were fearing that their very means of livelihood, the cows, were now lost. When searching the cows in the forest, they themselves were very tired and thirsty. Soon, however, they heard the crying of the cows. Krishna began to call the cows by their respective names with great noise. Upon hearing Krishna calling the cows, immediately replied with joy, but by this time the forest fire had surrounded all of them, and the situation appeared to be very fearful. The flames increased as the wind blew very quickly, and it appeared that everything movable and immovable would be devoured. All the cows and the boys became very frightened, and they looked toward Balram and Krishna the way a dying man looks at the picture of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They said, my dear Krishna, you and Balram are very powerful. We are now burning from the heat of this blazing fire. Let us take shelter of your lotus feet. We know you can protect us from this great danger. Our dear friend Krishna, we are your intimate friends. It is not right that we should suffer in this way. We are all completely dependent on you, and you are the knower of all religious life. We do not know anyone except you. The personality of Godhead heard the appealing voices of his friends, and casting a pleasing glance over them, he began to answer. By speaking through his eyes, he impressed upon his friend that there was no cause for fear, and he assured them, don't worry. Then Krishna, the supreme mystic, the powerful personality of Godhead, immediately swallowed up all the flames of the fire. The cows and the boys were thus saved from imminent danger. Out of fear, the boys were almost unconscious, but when they regained their consciousness and opened their eyes, they saw that they were again in the Bandira forest with Krishna, Balram, and the cows. They were astonished to see that they were completely free from the attack of the blazing fire, and the cows were saved. They secretly thought that Krishna must not be an ordinary boy, but he must be some demigod. In the evening, Krishna and Balram, along with the boys and cows, returned to Vrindavan, playing their flutes. As they approached the village, all the gopis became very joyous. Throughout the day, the gopis used to think of Krishna while he was in the forest. His absence they were considering one moment to be like 12 years. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purport of the 19th chapter of Krishna, Devouring the Forest Fire. Chapter 20, Description of Autumn. The killing of Pralambasur and the devouring of the devastating forest fire by Krishna and Balram became household topics in Vrindavan. The cowherd men described these wonderful activities to their wives and to everyone else, and all were struck with wonder. They concluded that Krishna and Balram were demigods who had kindly come over to Vrindavan to become their children. In this way, the rainy season ensued. In India, after the scorching heat of the summer, the rainy season is very welcome. The clouds accumulating in the sky, covering the sun and the moon, become very pleasing to the people, and they expect rainfall at every moment. After summer, the advent of the rainy season is considered to be a life-giving source for everyone. The thunder, the occasional lightning are also pleasurable to the people. The symptoms of the rainy season may be compared to the symptoms of the living entities who are covered by the three modes of material nature. The unlimited sky is the supreme Brahman, and the tiny living entities are like the covered sky, or Brahman covered by the three modes of material nature. Originally, everyone is part and parcel of Brahman. The supreme Brahman or the unlimited sky can never be covered by a cloud, but a portion of it can be covered. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they are only an insignificant portion of the Supreme Lord. This portion is covered by the modes of material nature, and therefore the living entities are residing within this material world. The Brahma Jyoti, which is the spiritual effulgence, is just like the sunshine. As the sunshine is full of molecular shining particles, so the Brahma Jyoti is full of minute portions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Out of that unlimited expansion of minute portions of the Supreme Lord, some are covered by the influence of material nature, whereas others are free. Clouds are accumulated water drawn from the land by the sunshine. Continually for 8 months, the sun evaporates all kinds of water from the surface of the globe, and this water is accumulated in the shape of clouds, which are distributed as water when there is need. Similarly, a government exacts various taxes from the citizens, which the citizens are able to pay by their different material activities, agriculture, trade, and industry. Thus, the government can also exact taxes in the form of income tax and sales tax. This is compared to the sun's drawing water from the earth. When there is again need of water on the surface of the globe, the same sunshine converts the water into clouds and distributes it all over the globe. Similarly, the taxes collected by the government must be distributed to the people again, as educational work, public work, sanitary work, etc. This is very essential for a good government. The government should not simply exact taxes for useless squandering. The tax collection should be utilized for the public welfare of the state. During the rainy season, there are strong winds blustering all over the country and carrying clouds from one place to another to distribute life-giving water to the needy living entities. When water is urgently needed after the summer season, the clouds are just like a rich man who in times of need distributes his money even by exhausting his whole treasury. So the clouds exhaust themselves by distributing water all over the surface of the globe. When Maharaj Dashrath, the father of Lord Ram Chandra, used to fight with his enemies, it was said that he approached them just like a farmer uprooting unnecessary plants and trees. And when there was need of giving charity, he used to distribute money exactly as the cloud distributes rain. The distribution of rain by clouds is so sumptuous that it is compared to the distribution of wealth by a great, munificent person. The clouds' downpour is so sufficient that the rains even fall on rocks and hills and on the oceans and seas where there is no need for water. The clouds resemble a charitable person who opens his treasury for distribution, who does not discriminate whether the charity is needed or not. He gives in charity open-handedly. Before the rainfall, the whole surface of the globe becomes almost depleted of all kinds of energies and they appear very lean. After the rainfall, the whole surface of the earth becomes green with vegetation and appears to be very healthy and strong. Here a comparison is made to the person undergoing austerities for fulfillment of a material desire. The flourishing conditions of earth after a rainy season is compared to the fulfillment of material desires. Sometimes when a country is subjugated by an undesirable government, persons and parties undergo severe penances and austerities to get control of the government. And when they attain control, they flourish by giving themselves generous salaries. This temporary profit is like the flourishing of the earth in the rainy season. Actually, one should undergo severe austerities and penances only to achieve spiritual happiness. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is recommended that tapasya or austerity should be accepted for realizing the Supreme Lord. By accepting austerity in devotional service, one regains his spiritual life. And as soon as one regains his spiritual life, he enjoys unlimited spiritual bliss. But if someone undertakes austerities and penances for some material gain, it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the result is temporary and they are desired by persons of less intelligence. During the rainy season, in the evening, there are many glow rooms visible about the top of trees, hither and thither, and they glitter just like lights. But the luminaries of the sky, the stars and the moons are not visible. Similarly, in the age of Kali, persons who are atheists or miscreants become very prominently visible, whereas persons who are actually following the Vedic principles for spiritual emancipation are practically obscured. This age, Kali Yuga, is compared to the cloudy season of the living entities. In this age, real knowledge is covered by the influence of the material advancement of the civilization. The cheap mental speculators, atheists, and manufacturers of so-called religious principles become prominent like the glowworms, whereas persons strictly following the Vedic principles or scriptural injunctions become covered by the clouds of this age. People should learn to take advantage of the actual luminaries of the sky, the sun, moon, and stars, instead of the glowworms' light. Actually, the glowworms cannot give any light in the darkness of night. As clouds sometimes become clear, even in the rainy season, and sometimes the moon, stars, and sun become visible, so even in this Kali Yuga, there are sometimes advantages. For example, sometimes Lord Chaitanya's Vedic movement of distributing the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is heard. People seriously eager to find real light should take advantage of this movement instead of looking toward the light of mental speculators and atheists. After the first rainfall, when there is thundering sound in the cloud, all the frogs begin to croak, like students suddenly engaged in reading their studies. Students are generally supposed to rise early in the morning. They do not usually arise of their own accord. However, when there is a bell sounded in the temple or other spiritual institution, by the order of the spiritual master, they immediately rise, and after finishing their morning duties, they sit down to study the Vedas or chant the Vedic mantras. Everyone is sleeping in the darkness of Kali Yuga. But when there is a great Acharya, by his calling only, everyone takes to the study of the Vedas to acquire the actual knowledge. During the rainy season, many small ponds, lakes, and rivulets become filled with water. Otherwise, the rest of the year they remain dry. Similarly, materialistic persons are dry. But sometimes when they are in so-called opulent position with a home or children or with a little bank balance, they appear to be flourishing. But immediately afterwards they become dry like the small rivulets and ponds. The poet Vidyapati said that in the society of friends, family, children, wife, etc., there is certainly some pleasure, but that pleasure is compared to the drop of water in the desert. Everyone is hankering after the happiness. Just as in the desert, everyone is hankering after water. If in the desert there is a drop of water, it may be, of course, be said that water is there, but the benefit from that water drop is very insignificant. In our materialistic way of life, which is just like a desert, we are hankering after an ocean of happiness. But in the form of society, friends, and mundane love, we are getting no more than a drop of water. Our satisfaction is never achieved as the small rivulets, lakes, and ponds are never filled with water in the dry season. Due to rainfall, the grass, trees, and the vegetation look very green. Sometimes the grass is covered by a certain kind of red insect, and when the red and green combine with the umbrella-like mushrooms, the entire scene changes. Just like a person who has suddenly become rich, the farmer then becomes very happy to see his field full of grains. But the capitalists, who are always unaware of the activities of a supernatural power, become unhappy because they are afraid of a competitive price due to the abundant production. In some places, certain capitalists and government restrict the farmers' production of grains, not knowing the actual fact that all food grains are supplied by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to the Vedic injunction, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kaman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead maintains this creation, therefore he arranges for a supply of whatever is required for all living entities. When there is a population increase, it is the business of the Supreme Lord to feed the people, but atheists or miscreants do not like the abundant production of food grains, especially if their business might be hampered. So we shall continue our reading from here onwards tomorrow. And we have heard how Krishna devoured the forest and made all the gopas safe again, and how they were in awe of him. And also we have started to read now about the description of autumn, how autumn appears in the Indian subcontinent, how everybody's hankering for rain all the time, all the moments of time, like Prabhupada says in the chapter, after the scorching heat of summer. Indian summers are very harsh, and coincidentally, as we are speaking now of autumn, the rainy season first actually. The rainy season has almost started in India, and people are joyous once again. And we'll carry on with the description of the autumn tomorrow. Wish you all a blissful week ahead, and have a nice day, everyone. I'll see you again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.